Welcome to another The Journey Starts Today. The journey starts today. It's been a while, actually. It's been like a month, I think, since I've uploaded anything, which is a problem. The good news is I have this, and then I'm working on like 2 other videos I gotta put up, so there will be more content coming. But we're finally gonna get to that review of The Darkest Day. So, for those who didn't know, I decided instead of reviewing these shit individually, I figured since it's considered an arc and there's no breaks in between it, to just review it as a straight, episodes 1 through 4 of the Darkest Day arc. And so that's what this video is going to be. Which I believe is episodes, 41 through 44? 41, 42, 43, 44. It's either, I think it's 41 through 44. Or it's 42 through 45. I don't remember off the top of my head. I know it's in the 40s, I just don't remember the specifics. So, The Darkest Day. Essentially, what The Darkest Day is a retelling. It's not even really a retelling. It's literally just the plot from Sword and Shield with the anime in mind, but there still isn't that many changes. All they did was just kind of change certain sequences so they made sense in the anime. Since Beat isn't there, we had to have Reboot Dynamax and break the fucking wall to get to the actual statues behind when him and Sonya are at Bee's hometown, or Bee's town, Bee's gym town and everything. So instead of Bead, I say B and Bead. That's going to be hard. Their fucking names are too fucking similar. The point is, Gym Leader B, her town that housed the mural, or Alistair's town, but since Alistair hasn't been shown in the anime, I'm calling it B's town for the sake of it, where in the games, Bede is the one who breaks the mural, and we find out about the statues, and then that's what leads to, him pretty much getting, disconnected from Rose, and then eventually he gets picked up by Opal and shit. Instead of having it go that way, they essentially went, oh, Reboot's just going to Dynamax and break it. I'm low-key also ticked off that for some fucking reason, even though Alina's Pokemon, her partner one, is supposed to be Garbodor, she doesn't even use it. She gets Milotic, and I'm like, what in the fuck? At the very least, use their mains. Especially because you gave Rose Caparaja, which I believe is his, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong. Remind me if I'm wrong. It's been a while since you only fight Rose once in the game. I completely forget his team. But the point is, why didn't you give her partner? You gave it to a fucking grunt, one of her grunts, and then she uses Milotic, which completely fucks with the dynamic. It's like all these little subtle things, and I guess here's the core thing with the arc. I think the arc as a whole is okay, because it's pretty much just retelling Sword and Shield. But considering people's thoughts when it comes to I'll go through the other arcs for example. The end arc in Best Wishes, people would most likely say, is a letdown compared to the games. Now, as someone who has played the games, I recognize that is very much true. The arc does not hold a candle to the games. But I think the arc in itself as an anime arc is perfectly fine, but it does not come close to comparing to the games. XY, as someone who hasn't watched that arc, the general consensus I've heard is that XY's Team Flare arc is way better than the game's version of that arc. And then I've heard kind of in the middle, in the road situation with Sun and Moons, because they kind of change characters. Lucamine is not... Lucamine, from what most people would say, Lucamine acts more like her Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon counterpart than her OG one. It's kind of the problem Best Wishes had, where Best Wishes kept introducing Black and White 1 versions of characters while also having Black White 2 versions of characters. So you got Black White 2 Getses, Black White 2 Plasma, and then Black White 2 Colress, because Colress is only in that game. But you gave me Black and White N, and you gave me Black and White Bianca, kind of, and you gave me Black and White 2 Sharon. They kept flipping between, and it fucked up that whole cohesion. The problem when it gets to The Darkest Day, however, is that The Darkest Day doesn't try to elevate itself like Team Flare's arc does, but also and is incredibly by the book. This is an arc that I think realistically would have benefited way more if it wasn't 4 fucking episodes. Every other arc I'm talking about gets more than 4 episodes, or at least gets build up. This gets none. This is like literally, I think Rose is introduced earlier, if I remember. I don't even remember, because Rose is almost as irrelevant here as he is in the games. Although he has more key scenes in the games, ironically enough. That's actually, I would take that back. He's more relevant in the anime than he is in the games. But they took all the key sequences, like when they eat dinner together, and they changed. That takes place in, I believe, originally it took place in Nessa's hometown, but for some reason they changed it to where it takes place in, I believe, Windington, which is where the fucking, like, the tournament, like the Elite Four, quote unquote, of Galar takes place. And I'm like, what is with these weird changes? And it doesn't fucking make sense. There's not enough, like, build up between Rose being not evil and evil, kinda, sorta. They have him flip a lot between the fucking episodes. Like, for example, he talks about how, like, I think one of the first things we hear him say is about, like, what about the Dynamax energy leaking out and causing Pokemon the Dynamax? And he's like, sacrifices must be made to ensure Galar's future. And then he'll have, like, this conversation about how much he cares about the beauty of Galar. And then you get towards the end of it where, like, Leon, where he's like, the reason why I was raising trainers like you was to be strong enough to catch Eternatus and control it so we can use it for unlimited energy. Ironically enough, I'm very surprised they didn't go the route of abusing Pokemon for your energy reasons is is it inhumane. They didn't go that route. They went, he's too dangerous, so we need to seal him. And I'm like, okay, so Rose raised Leon, at least based off of Rose's admission. Rose has been like helping bring up Leon to get him strong enough to fight and capture and control Eternatus. And when Leon says, I'm not going to do that, his response is, I'm just going to beat you up then. You mean the trainer that you've been breeding to fight Eternatus? You're going to... It doesn't make sense there. And then also, let's say you do beat Leon, right? You still can't control Eternatus. So, what... Like, I don't understand the logic. It's almost like the logic went out the window because it doesn't make any fucking sense. And then what makes me mad is that there's a lot of potential left on the floor. Now, I'll give you credit. Sonya is depicted perfectly. I love her. Period. She is so fucking adorable, and I think she's handled really well in the anime. I even like the stuff with Magnolia talking about her and Rose's past, and it like being like, oh, that's the reason why. There's a reason why I stopped working with Rose, because the man has some sort of madness in his eyes and shit. I like all that little foreshadowing. I even like the whole idea of Go getting more into the professor type thing with Sonya, or Ash is doing the more battling type thing with Leon. I appreciate a lot of elements of this whole little arc, but it irks me because this arc could have been better if they had just given it more time. It's like why not? It's not like why throw the Galar story into 4 episodes and that's it. The only thing else they can really adapt at this point is the post game and the DLC, which they might. But I was kind of frustrated because it's actually worse than the games. I would argue the story arc here is worse than the game story arc, and some of you would disagree. But here's the thing: the thing that makes the game story arc so good was characters like Bede, characters like Marnie, characters like Pierce, characters like Raihan, characters like Hop. My God, are you not? I thought Hop was almost a shoo-in to get adapted because I don't know. He's Leon's little brother. I thought that would happen, and then I realized I think Go is meant to be a weird fusion of the gimmick of Pokemon Let's Go while also incorporating minor elements from Hop. This arc, especially on the professor side of it, really hints that to me. It's not as ridiculous as like Trip was. Trip was flat out like, here's 2 characters, there's Trip. Like, that's how it was. I feel like Go's a little bit more subtle, but it's still frustrating because I'm like, oh, that's lame. Also, when I realized at the end of it all, Score Bunny to Cinderace's character arc was based around him learning Pyro Ball way earlier. Like, the whole premise, like, and it irked me because you get to the fight with Olina and Go with Milotic versus Reboot, and it's like, oh, he wants to finish this with Ember, which is taken from a fucking It's taken from the Flygon episode. Now, granted, I get what it's really referencing. The fact that the reason why Scorbunny evolved originally was over this Ember obsession, right? That was what caused it. Then he learned it. Then he got into this little moody teenager phase. And I feel like Reboot's section means nothing. Because when he evolves in the Cinderace, he essentially goes right back to being Scorbunny. And I'm like, I feel like, did you just... I actually feel like his Reboot phase has no value whatsoever. There is nothing in that phase that means anything. Because they ignore it. Cinderace is literally just Scorbunny again. So what the fuck is the point of the Reboot phase? Like, that's what bothers me. I'm like... Because, like, you see him, he does the... He goes back to doing, like, the kick thing up in the air where he kicks... He does the kick high five, and then he hugs him. And I'm like, oh, it's cute because it's the version of him you like. But it's also like... Well, Reboot section makes no sense. And what makes me mad is that there was that whole plot point where Reboot, during Ash's gym fights, would be overly interested, but they would always do these little screenshots of it, where Reboot would look intently at Ash in the fight. Like, it alluded to him being more interested in battles than, like, Go was, because Go was more focused on catching Mons, and it feels like that plotline was completely dropped. I don't have an issue with him evolving, although I feel like Riolu's was way more deserved because we constantly saw them train. We constantly saw them build each other up. Riolu even had his whole thing with B, which isn't completely finished yet. But I expect him to beat that ass now that he's evolved when we get into like the versus B round 3. Since you got a loss or draw, that means Ash got to get a win on that third one. Like, that's cool. So I feel like Riolu's evolution was fucking deserved. Reboot's was not. There was no arc with Reboot. Reboot, literally, it just turned into, here's Scorbunny, here's my insecurity about learning Ember, we're going to do, and then just have Reboot fuck around for a certain amount of episodes. Here's Cinderace. And I'm just like, what? What in the fuck is that? The animation, I think, for episodes were pretty rough. I was actually relatively disappointed, because you got to see G-Max Colossal, G-Max Centiskorch, G-Max, missing one. Oh, G-Max Meowth and everything. That was just a gimmick thing. I hate when you can tell something has no plot relevance. It's literally just meant for gimmick shit. Guys, do you want to see G-Max Meowth? Here you go. Boom, he's gone. Team Rocket was irrelevant. Good news, they weren't in this arc a lot anyway, but still irrelevant. I'm glad we got to see more of Ash's Mons used. We get to see Leon's Dragapult, I believe. The Charizard, and he uses something else, I thought. It's been a while, I gotta double check. But like, we at least get to see more of his mons, and we get to see Dragonite pretty consistently. Gengar gets a shine out. Cool. Where the fuck's Farfetch? We don't know. He's disappeared. He's disappeared. He's gone. He's gone. He's gone. We don't know where he's at now. I think Leon's characterization's fine. They pretty much... My issue, I guess, is that that it could have been better. You could have had a Team Flare arc of the anime where it severely elevated a story that was already okay. And I think Galar's story is way better than fucking XY's. And they had the potential to make it grander. Like, I don't know, introduce the Galar gym leaders and have them be the ones to fight the Dynamax rampaging Pokemon. The only cameo we get is fucking Raihan. It's lame, and it makes me mad because we're in towns where the gym leaders reside. Like, goes in there having this conversation with Sonya about the land drawings, and I'm like, isn't that Turfwood? Or Turfwood? I forgot how to pronounce it. It's Milo's hometown. It's Milo's gym town. They even show the gym in the background, I think, for B, when they're in that town looking at the mural. And I'm like, and you didn't feel the need to show off any of these gym leaders? This is, I think, the longest we've gone without getting this weird gap of plot-relevant characters in the story. Now, granted, the anime has one potential saving grace. You could technically adapt the post-game, the fucking Swordsbird and Shieldbird thing that does reuse the gym leaders fighting in their gyms. The problem is, we haven't even been introduced to these gym leaders. These characters don't even have anime designs yet. Granted, I don't imagine them being too different from their game design, but the point is, most of these gym leaders, the only gym leaders we've met of Galar is B, who is a game exclusive gym leader, and Raihan. I think that's it. We haven't met Malo, we haven't met Nessa, we haven't met Kabu, we haven't met Opal, We haven't met Pierce. And there's no way in my mind makes me believe you aren't going to show Pierce off. That's insane. But see, then once again, you've also screwed any potential for characters like Bede or fucking Hop. Well, Hop could still be used, but I feel like he's going to get completely nerfed as a character. Marnie's like the only character who can still work in the anime storyline without fucking up her arc in the game, because Marnie doesn't have an arc in the game. Marnie's whole thing in the game is just you understanding her. So, like, the arc does the bare minimum and hits all the major points with some small subtleties. Obviously, Ash and Doze's friendship, them doing the Dynamax capture together, both their minds evolving at the same time. And, one, like I'll say, the music here is God tier. The music in Journeys in general is God tier. I mean the Japanese version, because the dub is going to fuck it up like they always do. And I kind of just went through the whole thing and was like, you know what? Like, in itself, it's alright, but man, it could have been so much better. It could have been so much better if it was dragged out and built up like a proper arc. Even the end arc got like 13 episodes, if I remember correctly. The end arc wasn't done in no 4 episodes. So why the fuck couldn't we get that with this arc? It's like, man, it's like, damn. It's like you just had the stiff Galar. So the only thing now they can really adapt is the post-game, which you still gotta introduce the fucking gym leaders. And then I've heard, and I'll talk about it, well, I don't know if I want to bring that up here. The next episode, I believe, is a Mewtwo episode, which I've heard mixed things about. I've heard some people really like it, but there's a couple things about it that suck. I need to sit down and watch it, obviously, but I wanted to get this out before I sat down and watch it, so that didn't bleed into this review. The Darkest Day in itself, if you looked at it just as the anime story arc, it's fine. It's okay. It's alright. But man, when you look at it objectively, even comparing it to the games, it's worse than the games, in my opinion. I think the games has a better story arc because it has better fucking characters. I think it's worse than the games. I think it's fucking... It also has Rose go through some weird flip-flopping where he goes from being like I'm here for the future of Galar to saying fuck Galar because Leon won't catch it and do what I want him to do. So fuck it. And then they made him into like a goofball towards the end when he's in the helicopter like, return to show him your power. And I'm like, I feel like they don't know what to do with your character. This is actually worse than the games, where the games just had you do a 180. Here, they're having you do a 180, a 360, a 420, a fucking, I don't know, a 70. It's ridiculous. Like, just have him be consistent. And, oh, we haven't found him yet. So, yeah, next episode is the Mewtwo episode. I just went from this arc being pretty, like, whatever about it. There are elements I like about it, but, like, overall, I'm just pretty whatever about it. So, leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. I will see you probably either tomorrow, if not today, for the Mewtwo episode review. And with all that being said, life's a game, play to win. And the journey starts today. I threw my hat and I thought I was going to hang on the wall, and it didn't, so I'm sad. Fuck. Fuck, man. Fuck me. Fuck.